This is the Auburn Podcast, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast, brought to you by Auburn Undercover, as well as ESPN 1067. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, on Twitter at @ZBlackerby. Jeremy Henderson of the War Eagle Reader joining me on the Auburn Podcast today. Jeremy, what are we talking about today?
What do you know about Doug Barfield?
Not a lot, honestly. Know the name.
You know the name.
Know he was a coach.
He was a coach.
I assume a good one.
Well, a lot of people would debate. He got, we kind of got a raw deal. He came into a rough situation and then left in, the not great circumstances. Never beat Bama, so that's an issue. But he's a great dude. We used to joke around on It's Pronounced Jordan. We had this just great thing. It's like, because you would say, oh, well, he's a great man. But, everybody, it was kind of like he was like a byword, a cuss word, like Barfield, and people didn't like him, especially because he was part of the wilderness, the drought against the bear and all this stuff. And, never at least Suge won sometimes, and the punts and the Bamas and all that jazz. But anyway, he's still with us, still great, still nice. And lives in Montgomery. And about a year ago, actually, had the opportunity to sit down with old Dougie B.
Did y'all get a drink?
Panera's. Well, he got a water.
Okay. What did you have?
Probably a DC. No, it was Pepsi product, so God knows. I don't know. Because it was Pepsi, I drank a lot of Pepsi.
Sure.
Actually, just tons of it, really. Right?
The morning show that you're on,
it's powered by Pepsi.
It's powered by Pepsi.
Yeah, no, I drank tons of it. It was kind of obscene. That's why he left a little early. He's like, son, I don't want to be a part of this. Anyway.
After your 20th refill, he's like,
right.
All right.
But see, I'm real into the 70s and, Auburn culture and everything, right? And that's kind of one of my sweet spots. But the Barfield era obviously gets kind of overlooked a whole lot, quite a bit, because nobody wants to think the stretch. Ask somebody to talk about the 77, Tennessee game or something. Nobody's going to be like, I don't know. Did we lose? Did we whatever? And he wasn't bad. His official winning percentage, I don't know. I think it was 29 and 25 and 2 or something like that. And but he came into the job. He came from Clemson.
What was his first year
in 72. His first year here was 72 as an assistant, right? So it was a good year to be here. 72, 73, some sort of offensive assistant. The word coordinator really wasn't in vogue as a term at the time, but it was coming on, in the 60s, 70s. But he became the offensive coordinator in 74.
Now, was he actually the offensive coordinator, or was he just the
No,
head
it was
offensive
actually
coach?
Said offensive coordinator.
Okay.
Right? And 74.
Was he Auburn's first offensive coordinator?
I think so. By name, I think you would probably call him that, because, right, they would just call him, offensive coach or line coach, kind of a deal.
He was a good man.
He was a great man. And frankly, he was a great offensive coordinator. He came from Clemson. He'd been there for a couple of years. He kind of had a meteoric rise. He was really good at Southern Miss, beat Bama
a
couple of times at Southern Miss, believe it or not. I think he was actually a quarterback.
Okay.
At Southern Miss.
That makes sense.
I think he was good. He and Brett Favre.
They besties?
They're probably tight.
Okay.
But
they were Wranglers together?
Yeah. Now, that was the original. In the 70s, there were Doug Barfield, and thankfully they didn't have cell phones, if you know what I mean.
Meat tweet? Is that what you're talking about?
I've heard the stories.
Sure.
People talk.
Okay.
But and then he got hired at Clemson, and then he came here. It was real quick, and suddenly he finds himself as a head coach after being in coaching really only outside of some high school stuff.
Who did he take over from? Who was the Auburn head coach before him?
Well, Suge.
Okay.
Come on now.
I'm just making sure,
Well,
man.
this is what happened. So 74, we have the Veer. We ran the Veer T, right? And it was great. And we should have beaten Bama that year. And the only team that we really, lost to, we should have beaten Bama. They cheated, is what I'm saying. It wasn't we could have had them. But we were a better team than they were. And we went
Alabama cheated?
Yeah, there was this whole
do you actually
big
have proof
thing.
of that, or are you just saying
Well, the refs, there's this whole big deal. The Gossam incident is what it's kind of called. We scored a touchdown. Tom Gossam, our wing, whatever, split end or wing back, whatever he was, receiver, was bumped
I'm glad they started calling them wide receivers. Split ends.
Split ends kind of.
What are we doing here?
You already got the tight end.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So he was bumped by a guy, and there was a debate. Did he step on the line at all to go out of bounds before the ball came to him? But he scored a touchdown, and there's no footage of this or anything. He's like, I didn't step out of bounds. If I did, it was like my foot maybe was on the edge, right on the thing.
Where do you stand in this debate?
Oh, I don't think he did. The guy who called it was like one of the back judges or whatever, right? The linesman right there going along with him didn't call it. It came, and Gary, oh my gosh. Gary Sanders, our play-by-play guy who did the whole punt thing. Listening to him, I have it on the Wargle Reader. You can Google the Gossam incident. But listening to him describe the play is priceless because he just has had enough with Bear, with the idea of the preference, the prejudice, the deferential treatment to Bear.
Can I put that audio in this podcast?
If you want. Yeah,
are you okay with that? Do I have your
sure.
permission for that? I'll get it from WargleReader.com.
Yeah. You can get on there. But it's like it's so great. He's like, what is this? A penalty flag? Oh my gosh. What are they saying now? Sometimes Gusty, you just wish you could get a fair shake, and that's not always what you get. And Gusty Year Out was his color guy, and he had actually in 1967 been just straight up tackled by a guy blocking for Kenny Stabler, and Kenny Stabler scored a touchdown in a game we were totally dominating.
Sure.
There's also a big story on that, the most beautiful tackle of 1967 or something like that. 5,000 words on the WargleReader.com. I recommend you read it because God knows I spent some time on it. Anyway, so Gusty's like, yeah, something like, because he had actually been a part of the last big kind of controversial thing like that, and then later. This is obvious that I have it lined up with the footage, the coaches film with it, and it's like, and this guy piles on. I mean, like the latest hit you've ever seen in your life, right? The guy just jumps on top and spears somebody, like probably 5 seconds after he's been down or something like that. And he's like, late hit, of course, no flag, and then Bear's like, oh, Bear's Bryant's coming on the field. What's he want now? It's just he gave up. He was not giving any. I think you know what I mean. I think you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
At that point, and it's just interesting to hear. Anyway, getting back to that, 1974 was a great year with Barfield. Right, offensively, he was a good man. He was a good coach.
Right.
He found out. We think Auburn, the whole coach in waiting phenomenon. Is always kind of weird, right? When you have some young guy coming up after a legend's been there for forever. With Texas, they did that, and it was kind of wasn't Muschamp like the coach in waiting,
but then
what's his name? But then he bailed
right
for what's his name, Mac Brown or something. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so Barfield gets a call one day at his home after the 1974 season. After they we beat Texas, we creamed Texas, right, in the bowl, the Gator Bowl.
Okay.
Just laid out Texas. And he gets a call at his home, and it's a reporter being like, hey, can we get a comment? How's it feel? And he's like, what are you talking about? Well, you're going to be the new head coach at Auburn. He's like, what do you mean? Word had leaked out from one of the trustees to the reporters that Shug had decided to hang it up after the 1975 season, right? And so they have to hold this quick impromptu press conference. And they had, they were already, planning, making a legacy plan for what's going to happen. And a lot of people thought that Paul Davis, one of our defensive guys, who's an old timer, had been around, coached at I think Southern Miss or something, that he was going to get it, right? And he didn't. And a lot of people wanted him to get it. He almost looked like Bear Bryant. He was this kind of old timer guy. And people thought it'd be great after Shug, be the same kind of vibe. But in Barfield's only late 30s or something at the time. And he didn't really even know he was up for consideration to that point. And he found out that he was had been, tapped for this gig. What are you going to do? Say no?
Sure.
Right. And so he's like, oh, okay. And so there was this impromptu press conference and they named him and he didn't even know about it. So he goes into it in a weird situation because it's the last year. It's Shug's last year in 1975. Right. Well, the team, 1975 wasn't a good year. I don't have the record in front of me, but it was a losing season.
Guess what it was. Just guess.
I think it was I want to say 6-7. or something like that. That can't be right. We wouldn't have played 13
they
games.
didn't play that many games.
I want to maybe 5 and 6, probably 5 and 6 or something like that. It wasn't great, and because nobody's going to blame Suge in his swan song season,
right?
You can't. Barfield gets the blame. He'd been great, and then offensively, and then we struggle and we suffer. Even though the teams are good, and it was just one of those things that kind of like happens.
How interesting is like the fact that back then they're like, okay, it's his last year. We're not going to like hate on him as a fan base,
right?
But if that happened now, it's like that's how you're going out, really,
right?
Really.
Right. And I don't know how it would be, right, because a lot of people probably knew Dyes last year was going to be 92 because of all the scandal and all this stuff. So I don't know, but it's weird, you can't hate on it. So he kind of bore the brunt on this, unjustly, a bit for that season. So he's already kind of got something, against him. It's already strike one, kind of like going into it.
Yeah.
But we had a couple of good seasons. I think we had like an 8-3. Maybe at some point, like maybe in 77 or 78, yeah, Joe Cribbs, James Brooks, incredible duo. I mean, they were just terrorizing folks. And
I'm going to be honest, I didn't realize they were in the backfield at the same time.
I mean, that was a combo right there. Orange jerseys and
compare them
taking
to
names.
I mean, that was like Ronnie and Cadillac before it was cool.
Yeah, it was like Bo and Brent Fullwood. Have you seen this thing going around? Like the name,
SEC Country's doing it.
SEC Country.
It's like take out Bo, but
who do you want other than Bo and everything? I want Brent Fullwood and Brent Fullwood. maybe James Brooks and Brent Fullwood or something like that.
What's your Brent Fullwood? Is that your legit answer to that?
Brent Fullwood was just unbelievable. Brent Fullwood was basically just like Bo 0.0. Like he was that his I think his average yard wise, it was something like 8 yards a carry or something like that. Like it was insane. He was insane. Anyway, because he was in the backfield as Bo at the same time for like a season or two.
One person's was Mario Fannin and Trey Smith.
Dynamic duo if we've ever had one.
Yeah, everyone's saying like Cadillac and Carry On. Or,
I remember Terry Henley, old running back Terry Henley was so high on Mario Fannin when he came here, and I don't know if you remember. You were probably a little young for it, but he was kind of like this superstar kind of guy. There were pictures of him going around, at practice topless, and he's looking tough and mean.
I remember that. Yeah.
His name was Mario, Super Mario, and he could hit people, and
he jumped on Goombas.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Bowser didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, he may just
guy.
like jump down a pipe.
Right. Right. He could
come up with a bunch of coins,
just disappear and show up later down the field.
He saved a princess once.
But I remember Terry Henley on the radio before an Iron Bowl talking about I think predicted that Fannin would win a Heisman or something close to it or something. A guy that didn't get a lot of play in that I really, really loved that I didn't see his name come up at all was Ben Tate.
Yeah, Ben Tate was a second-round pick.
Ben Tate could bash you. I don't know if you remember that Tennessee game, but we played Tennessee maybe in where
he ran over Eric Berry.
And just yeah, I mean
the best safety in the NFL right now. He just ran over him. Yeah,
Berry just hit him and went flying. And I called him the Border State battering ram because it came from Maryland. Crab cakes and running. He could do it. I loved Ben Tate. Anyway, but getting back to it. So the time starts coming, the handwriting's on the wall. The alumni, we're not beating Bears winning championships still. We're not winning. We're getting close in a couple of games. And then the final season's not good. And so he gets the axe, right? It's been 5 years of the Barfield experiment. He gets the axe. Everybody can't stand him. Yada. A few weeks later, he's coaching, but he still coached the blue-gray game. Or whatever, right? I think
what is the blue-gray game?
It's
like the All-Star game?
It's like north-south kind of stuff. I think he was like the Southern coach for the blue-gray, like Civil War kind of stuff. Like, I don't know, Yankees versus, I don't know, like Rebels or something.
The Confederates?
Right, Right. It was still actively, the war technically hadn't ended. And this was one of the weird, they had a treaty and everything. They signed it. I don't know what I'm saying. Point is, at the Appomattox Fieldhouse. So the point is,
Abe Lincoln was a ref.
So
that was weird.
That was screwed up, right?
He still had his top hat on. I don't know why.
But Barfield still coaches. Well, his daughter. He's at his house one day, and his daughter gets a call, and this is what he told me that no one had heard. I don't think. or at least very few people knew.
Okay.
Daughter gets a call, or he hears her coming, Dad, it's Bear Bryant on the phone. He's like, what? It's Coach Bryant is on the phone. I'm like, what in the world? How's he? Okay. He goes, it's straight up Bear Bryant. He wants to meet with Doug. Let's have a talk.
Well, Doug is a good man.
After the Blue-Gray game, Doug goes, I think it's in Montgomery, of course, first capital of the Confederacy. They really were into all things. It was basically like a Civil War reenactment. You've seen those, right? They weren't in pads. They're like, can you imagine that? Actually playing like in the historic garb or whatever tradition. Authentic. So you
hear one of those gunshots, then like you just kind of pick when you want to die, Right. And then
when you want to do attack when you fall down.
And you lay there for 25 minutes and then people come and get you. Right. Yeah.
So he meets, Bear wants to take a meeting with him, and Bear had access to pretty much every hotel like in the state, it seemed like. Any hotel, you would just always hear him like taking meetings in hotel rooms like a mob boss or something. Or anyway. So he meets with Bear Bryant. Long story short, Bear kind of sort of offers him a job. This is like weeks after he's been axed at Auburn.
Okay.
But he's not being specific about what he wants him to do. But Doug was very much under the impression that it was kind of like, come work for me. Now, Bear at the time had a reputation because there weren't like weird scholarship limits. He had a reputation for just offering scholarships to everyone just so they wouldn't go to a rival school. Right. Even if they like wouldn't play. And then also scheduling extra SEC games just so he could win like the SEC. He'd schedule a Vandy or something on top of something so that he would always have like one more conference game and therefore be in a better position to win the championship. Right. Well, he's just working loopholes. I mean, the man, you can't fault him.
You can't fault him. Right.
And he's just playing by, he's going for it. But and so I started that really got me thinking, like, what if Doug Barfield had gone to coach in some capacity? I mentioned that because the reputation, Doug, I think he almost kind of felt it was like either just a troll Auburn, basically, like I have your coach, sure, like he's going to come for me, and or just be with me, or then maybe just like so no one else would take him because I think Bear respected him as an offensive mind, sure, right, and so I think he kind of had that impression because he was definitely considering it. He just wanted some specificity. What exactly, come, you want a job? Sure. What I'll be doing? Well, we'll talk about that later, kind of a thing. Well, we'll have you up at the booth. Well, I need coffee sometimes. What's he going to be doing? And I think he kind of had the impression that it was basically just as some psychological warfare against the rivals. And then I started thinking about that. Auburn has never really had to deal with something like that. We've never been, in an LSU position where our, beloved national championship winning head coach has jumped to a conference rival and done even better there. Saban goes from LSU, and then so every time LSU is playing Saban, you can't sit there and like rejoice over the 2003 national championship season because it was coached by, Saban. Yeah, we've never really had to do that. We've had coaches. Chiswick went to North Carolina, but we're not playing North Carolina, and he was a defensive coordinator. We've had Tracy Rocker we've had Damian Craig, jump ship and do these kind of deals and go but we've never really had to deal with that as a head coach. Arkansas had Ole Miss, Houston Nutt going down there, and so they're having to play them. And it's always
the only one I could think. I mean, Tommy was at Ole Miss, but then he was at Auburn after.
Right, and in fact, almost all of our coaches in Barfield told me he was actually even considering moving back to Auburn at one point recently. They've all come back here, save for Bowden. They all live in the area. Chiswick, Tommy Tuberville, Malzahn, obviously. Who's the other one? Dye. Right. My gosh.
That's the one you're going to forget?
Me, Coach. I apologize for that. Right, and that's crazy. I mean, there's been stories on how odd that is. The only one is Bowden, and of course, now he's a head coach up at Akron. Didn't we actually play Akron recently in the last couple of years?
I don't know.
I want to think. I want to say that we did, But at the same time, it's not like it's a game that we have a chance of losing or anything.
Sure.
So it's like we've never had to really deal with that. And I just kind of wonder what that would have been like. Number one, I find it interesting Bear offered him a job. Number two, or essentially, in so many words, offered him a job. Number two, I just kind of wonder, and it made me think that we've never really had to do that. The closest thing, honestly, I can think of was Donahue going to LSU.
Donahue.
And yes, it's Donahue.
Donahue
going to LSU a year, right, after leaving Auburn, and like Auburn players showing up and crying, we're playing against them, and he's like, no, like they didn't want to play against them. No, you win for Auburn and everything.
But did you ask?
He never actually did that well over there. So
when y'all were pounding Pepsis at Panera, did you ask him about that? Did you ask him about the conversation with the Bear?
Kind of. Oh yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, well, I don't want to say he actually straight up offered me a job, but he kind of made it clear that that's what he had in mind, but he just wouldn't tell me what it was. He said, I had a conversation with Gene Stallings. And I told him about that, and he said, "Oh, you should have done that. It would have been a good experience for you." He's like, "Well, I would have had he actually said what he wanted me to do," which is one of the reasons I think he thinks it was more just a toy with Auburn, just to stick it to Auburn in some weird way. Which Bear was not above in his comments and his actions. Nice person, I'm sure, though he was. Anyway, I felt that interesting. To me, it shows a little insight in the whole Barfield era. There's still plenty to work with that hadn't been tapped, but it's like, you can name your Phil Garguses and well, actually, I don't even think he was, and when Barfield was a head coach, but Charlie Trotman, and I mean, just, don't you feel bad for the players who gave their all for Auburn during this stretch that's just basically this blank spot on our, historical celebration timeline of things, oh, national champions, oh, that, Connie Frederick, 1969, punt, Bama punt, and then the next thing is Bo over the top. You know what I mean? Like,
it is a big jump.
It's this huge thing, and it's got to be weird for him coming back, or not coming back. He has family that still lives here. But
I also think you could argue that he was the coach at like the toughest time to win in Auburn history.
Oh, sure,
because of Bear.
No, definitely. And he was like, "Well, I didn't beat him, but nobody really beat him." And I was like, were you intimidated by him at all? And he's like, "Well, no, not really. You just really wanted to beat him. Like I wanted to be the one to beat him, and we came close and we tried. But I think recruiting, was one of the biggest things, and I think a lot of people kind of felt that he wasn't the best recruiter. But, of course, you're going up against Bear Bryant in the late 70s when songs are being written about the Crimson Tide, and Bryant's a rock star and bigger than the governor,
Sure.
So, anyway, it must have been hard. I just but he was a good guy, and he was, frankly, a good coach. And the irony being that he actually, I think 2 times, I'll have to check it, Bama always would struggle against Southern Miss in some weird way. I remember growing up and loving when Southern Miss was playing Bama, and I would listen to it on the radio and just hear Eli Gold's voice sink. I remember one time listening to Eli Gold and Snake Stabler when they were losing to Southern Miss in Tuscaloosa, obviously, and he's like, oh, and like it had just started sprinkling and they were losing or something. He's like, well, Eli, everybody knows that rain goes in favor of the visiting team, so this is to be expected. I was like, wait a minute. Is that a thing?
Like it only rains on, the home team.
It's
like the raindrops kind of curve away from
everybody
the
knows,
team.
Eli. Everybody knows that rain affects the home team the hardest. I was like, what kind of excuse? Yeah, you're right. All right. Anyway.
Jeremy, I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, yeah, that's what I have today. And, it's 3 weeks worth of just, again, I would be thinking about it in the shower and
goodness.
And so that, take it for what it's worth.
Earlier in the week, you told me, you're like, all right, I know what we're going to talk about. And then earlier today, before we recorded this, you said you forgot.
No, and then this was it. I remember.
You promised this is it? You didn't just come up with something else?
Well, I was going to just make something up about some Heisman story or something.
That would have been awesome.
But I'll get around to that.
Okay.
Actually, I have a crazy story. Well, good Lord.
Let's save it for next time.
Yeah.
Let's save it for next time.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Where can people find all your stuff?
TheWarEagleReader.com Also write some stuff for AL.com, some Auburn stuff.
How is that?
Rich and Jeremy in the morning.
You into that? You into the AL.com life?
Well, it does well. And
Sure.
I'm just happy that everybody's kind of winning there with old Jer on board.
Okay.
Writing things. And the last thing I wrote was, hey, about an Auburn 2017 Auburn grad that you can now wear lingerie designed by a 2017 Auburn grad. She's a rising star of Victoria's Secret. And it's an important story that needed to be told.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Great for me. Those promo photos she sent. I mean, hey, but honey, it's work.
Did she buy it?
Yeah, she bought it.
Okay, good.
It's work. I'm a pro.
TheWarEagleReader.com.
Yep. It's great. Check out that story. If you haven't read it, read I think it's called The Prettiest Tackle of '67. It's a good story.
Okay.
It really is. It's a good story. And then you can check out the Gossam incident, and then I also wrote a little bit about this with some of Barfield's quotes in there. You can hit the vintage tab at the top, and you'll find it, or just search Barfield. Actually, don't search the War Eagle Reader search function. Just go Google. Just do Barfield War Eagle Reader on the Goog.
Okay,
because that's the best way. That's how I find things.
And also head to auburnpodcast.com to see how you can get exclusive Saturday editions of the Auburn Podcast. That wraps up this week. This has been the Auburn Podcast.